Hello! Happy Saturday. How are you all? How's it going? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am ready to finish this shirt, and I'm so excited to do flat fell seams because they're so fun. And then we're going to do a shirt sleeve placket and like this kind of shirt sleeve placket. The proper style. So we'll be doing that as well once I finish the shirt. And yeah, this is a pretty chunky flannel, but it worked really nice. It's my husband's shirt. Got a pile of shirts right there. So how are you all? I know the fabric's a little dark, but I can probably zoom in a little bit if you need to, so just let me know. And let's see, so far, this is the Fairfield button-up by Thread Theory Designs. This is my third one. I've made one other on camera, and it also was short-sleeved. That's why I'm going to do this shirt sleeve placket demo. It's really not that hard. It's really just keeping track of what you're folding, and it's like she has it all labeled on the pattern piece. So I highly recommend giving it a try, even if you just do a little sample of it, because they're really kind of fun. It's kind of magical how it works, because really all you're doing is ironing and folding, and then stitching it down. I know I'm oversimplifying, but it's not. It's real. I'm serious. So, hey Ray, how's it going? Thanks for the emails. I am so busy right now behind the scenes, and I think I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, yeah, maybe I've made too big of a list for myself to get done by the end of next week. So I probably need to trim it back. And I also think I'm going to invite my daughter to work with me next week, which might cut down a little bit more on my productivity because I want to teach her a few things. I haven't told her this plan yet. So wish me luck. But, she's waiting to get a job right now, and she is also frustrated by what she didn't learn in high school, like how to apply for a job. They say they teach you that, but they really don't. So I'm going to teach her a few other things. So, and I know you guys aren't expecting anything, so I need to okay, just chill. No one's expecting these things except me. So far, this is what we have. We did the fronts, the yoke. We did the yoke in contrast. We did the collar. We did the pocket, which is chameleon-ish. There, you can barely even see it. This fabric is so gorgeous in person. I'm sorry it's falling so flat on the camera. It's like this really amazing chocolate brown color. Here's the collar stand. So if you missed any of that, it's all uploaded. Same with cutting it. So I know, Ray. I know you don't, but I really appreciate it. It's like having a pen pal, and I always like to reply to my pen pals, and I love hearing what you're up to. And I love that you're as into food as I am, especially from a health standpoint. I don't know why, but my foot pedal filled. Oh, I know. I put a pillow. My butt and lower back is so tired from sitting doing computer work right now. I put a pillow here, so I feel a little bit off. Hey, Elizabeth. Hey, Milan. Oh, you do. Apparently, you need to pick up your daughter, Milan. Right, Ray? Yeah. Do you ever do that? You're like, okay, I gotta do all these things, and then I'm like, who asked you to do these things? Nobody. Right? So I'm gonna try and do things I think you guys get the most out of, and also I'm gonna really try and focus on what is best for me. Not from a selfish standpoint, but from a sustainability standpoint, right? So, all right, so let's get going. I didn't even look to see if my sleeves were here. They better be. Here they are. They were folded really small. I got a little nervous there. So the first thing, so I'm doing flat felled seams, and if you don't know what flat felled seams are, they are another way to enclose the seam so it's completely finished. So if you don't have a serger, or maybe you want a really nice finish, a flat fell seam, it looks really sharp. The seams are completely enclosed. And the other thing about it is a flat felled seam is against the garment. So a French seam hangs like out from the garment like a seam does on the inside, but you know, it's loose, right? Whereas a flat felled seam is stitched down. I only have examples of flat fell right here, but see, like this is the inside of this garment and the seam is fully flat. There's the outside, this is the inside, and it's the same with the sleeve. There's the inside and the outside. As opposed to French seam, which you guys see me do all the time, you know. Yeah, thanks, Ray. Rah, rah, right? My dress actually might have French seams. Oh no, it's serged. Well, that's a first. That's crazy. And then I have this other dress here. I wear these Amelias all the time. You guys see me wear Amelias all the time. You probably don't even know it. Here's my big gripe about the Amelia. My older ones are ripping in the armhole. The cotton is just getting, you know, super broken in, and there's no armhole. See? There's no set in armhole. This is such a good example of why learning how to do an armhole with a sleeve is so important in your sewing skill set, because there's nothing that beats the fit of it and the mobility of it. So because there's no armhole here, it's nice because it's a really easy sew that way, and it looks really cute and it fits a lot of people, and you don't have the issues of fitting a sleeve. But the fact that this is just a slit for your arm to go through, I was squatting down and cleaning up here. I think I was using the dustpan and it just went rip. So, and look the other side of the dress, I have already repaired this. There's a dart right here. Hey, Louise. Yeah, and flat felled seams are in jeans, especially the inseam. And it's really nice because a flat felled seam is so low profile, and that's such a high abrasion area. We have a lot of sensitive bits in that area, and denim is so thick and boardy that doing a flat felled seam is really useful there. They're a little trickier there because it's so heavy duty, and you're hemming basically denim over the crotch juncture, which there's a lot of denim going on there. So it can be a little, like we see them most often there. Most people's first experience with flat felled is denim, and it's really the hardest one to do. I usually don't say what's the hardest thing, but that is one of the hardest of the starts. Incidentally, this Amelia dress is cut completely on the bias, and when I do that, I don't finish the seams. They're raw. This one, the skirt's probably on the straight grain, but the bodice is not. And then I just stitch it down on either side. And it's so nice and low profile and soft. I love it. So let's see the bodice. I think I even hemmed over the sides in like a fake. Here's the side seams. Like I just hemmed over, pressed it open and hemmed. Here's the center front seam. The facing, I just hemmed. No interfacing at all. You guys, that sewing confessions post has really stuck with me from the podcast, Love to Sew podcast. I was like, who came up with these no-nos to confess to? I was a little like, what the heck? I do these all the time. And I love that one of you, I can't remember who it was, saw my comment, knew who I was, and was like, yeah, we watch you do these things, and we all sit there with popcorn like, oh my God, what's she going to do next? But it's like, I don't know, you know, like, there's some rules, but I don't know. What would I do? I think about that all the time, Ray. I really should. See, I worry about changing a pattern so much and then sewing it in front of people without, I don't want to ever look like I'm trying to take someone's pattern and giving it away for free here. And sometimes the pattern drafting, I get emails from smaller pattern companies worried about that because they don't bother to look and see what I do. And so, I don't know. I would just, I would do this to it. Literally, I would put an armhole in there and then a little cap sleeve. That's it. So, and the cap sleeve could start like right here. It would almost have the exact same look, but it would give me mobility, right? There would actually be some three-dimensional shaping here under the underarm, like that. There would, look at, because this is a hole, not a slit. You know, it's a round hole. Right, Louise? So I got a little nervous. Like, I was like, what the heck? What are these no-nos? I commented. I never comment on their posts, and I did this time. I was like, I do two of these things in here. And they were, the two I do is I use pattern weights. Why is that a confession to not use pattern weights? I don't understand that at all, because, like, how do you, like, that's not cutting a corner. You have to hold the pattern down. And then the other one was, yeah, I don't use my fabric scissors on paper, but that's not a problem for me, because what I do is I periodically, like every few years, I go and buy a 3-pack of scissors, like Fiskars or whatever, kitchen scissors, and I put them in the house, and that's all that's in my house. I don't have my fabric scissors out, and my daughter has a really nice pair of fabric scissors. And I saw them out. She cut my mom's hair with them the other day. And I was like, whatever, they're hers. Hair is a natural fiber. That is okay to do with your fabric scissors, I'm pretty sure, you know? I don't know. Maybe, Ray. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really great place to start, right? Like, if you just line it up with the shoulders. That pattern is, it's not badly drafted at all. It's very simply drafted. So if I would totally take that pattern and make it a fully fledged, tested, thoroughly, like the shoulders also don't, I think they don't have much of a slope because there's no armhole, so you'd have to add a slope to them. And what else would I do? I would probably put, make it so that the zipper's a side zipper, or I would make I don't know, I would actually eliminate the back zipper. It's almost impossible for me to zip it. So there's that too. I love that pattern though. It's by Green Bee Patterns, who's, and it's like a mother and daughter, and the daughter is one of the original cotton and steel fabric designers. I can't remember who it is. Sorry. It's a great pattern, and it doesn't come in very many sizes. That's the other thing I would do. I would put it in a ton of sizes. Like, I would love to say, can I have the rights to this pattern? Can I buy the rights to this pattern so that I'm not copying you? Because I would love to take that pattern further. Because so many people who have fabric in their stash, especially if they're new to garment sewing, have quilting cotton in their fabric stash, right? And the quilting cotton isn't an appropriate fabric choice for most garments. So, but it is for that dress because it's on the bias. And so it is such a great thing to, like, I can whip it out really quickly. The only thing is you do need to hang it for a few days and let it stretch because of the bias. But I have that pattern down so well that I know to just cut 3/4 of an inch off of the 2 shoulder seams and sew it up, and it's fine. So yeah, I could do it on the Beatrice. Yeah. Hey Terry, how's it going? All right, let's get going. Now Terry's here. All right. All right, so I'm going to do the flat felled seams in the armhole, and I literally looked at the directions to make sure I knew the seam allowances because they're different. So if you're making the Fairfield button up and you're like, I don't want to do flat felled seams, that's completely fine. You can just do serged seams. You can finish them a different way. Just note that the seam allowances on all these edges are different from one another. So I'll give you an example. On the armhole here, it is 3/8 of an inch. On the sleeve, it's 1/4 inch. On the underarm, on the front, I wrote this down. The front, it's 1/4 of an inch. Wait, the front is 5/8 and the back is 1/4 inch, and it's the same on the underarm of the sleeve. So you need to note that and either make all your seam allowances consistent And she marks the seam allowances on the pattern, and now I know why, because I was like, why are these notched? And that's why, because they do vary a lot. So that's something you need to note. You don't have to do flat felt seams, but it's only like twice the sewing. You know, that's it. It's not hard. It's just like double the sewing. Saying like it's just double the sewing is probably not the best way to market that. All right, let me iron my sleeve here. Oh, and look, I finished my little quilt. Look, I stitched it. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but you know, I'm trying. I was just ironing it. Let me rotate this a little bit. Yeah, Louise, but because it's the flat fell, you know, because we're gonna take one edge like this, and like say that's the armhole, you know, we're gonna go like that over it and stitch it down. So this one needs to be smaller so that we can have the room we need to do it, to enclose it. So on the sleeve, it's 1/4 inch. I had to write all this down. I actually made myself a little cheat sheet and magnetized it to my machine so I would remember. Because 1/4, 3/8, 5/8, front, back, it's all a lot of different ones. And this is nice and easy to press. That's kind of a big slit you got there, Jeremy. Come on. What the heck? Because the sleeve has this curve, it's actually not hard to get it to lay flat at all because there's a lot of bias there. Hi Barbara, how's it going? Ooh, nice. It's Friendship Stars. The pattern, I know she got permission from a quilt company for the star. I didn't think it was called Friendship Star, but it's a Thimble Blossoms pattern, and it's called Round and Round. It's a mini. You know, I bought all those little mini patterns because I was so fascinated by the idea of tiny little quilts and things. I love small things. And I had a friend at the time who said something a little weird, and it kind of put me off of it. And she was, I don't know, she was kind of an odd duck. She said something to the effect of, she's like, oh yeah, they do those because I gave them the idea. I invented that. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. You know, that's neat, but she said that about a lot of things. It was really awkward, and it kind of put me off of doing the pattern because I didn't want her to talk to me about it. Trying to get a nice smooth curve there. But this will be on the inside of the garment. This is the wrong side of my fabric. You press this towards the right side. Yeah, I'm going to flat fell the armhole. Oh, you're making a table topper. Wait. What's a table topper? Oh, my little quilt. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I should probably put a way to hang it up, maybe. Right? I don't know. It's just the act of doing it. Maybe I'll just hang it up here. Maybe I could hang it up behind me, huh? That's getting kind of crowded back there. I have a stairwell, and in my stairwell, I call it my handmade hallway, and I put all kinds of things that are handmade. Not usually by me, though. There is like the little cat face I stitched on burlap when I was like 5 is in there, and that quilt I sewed in paper is there. Everything else is not by me. It's all by some other people. People I don't know, people I do know. It's just stuff. Like I have a handmade like little broom made locally that I think is really cool because that's such a neat art. You know, making brooms and weaving the handle. Stuff like that. This is, no, not a repeat at all. Hello. I don't know how to say your name, though. TL solder. Hello. I am at the iron right now, but I'll be back at my machine once I finish pressing this. We're prepping the sleeve to be a flat fell seam. Hey Eliza, how's it going? Oh, okay. Yeah, right, Barbara. Yeah, I feel like Barbara, she says something like thank you to, I don't know, like Missouri Star quilt thing or someone big, I think. But yeah, like her use of making it small is maybe her personal copyrighted thing. I know she's a big quilt designer, right? Like she's kind of big in that world, right? All right, here we go. Hey Jan. Welcome. How's it going? All right. This is where I usually sit. Well, unless I'm at the pattern table. All right, so we're flat felling the armhole. This is the back. So we're gonna put this right sides together. So that was this one right here. Right sides together. And this is probably one of the rare times you'll actually see me sew the sleeve without setting it in because of the flat fell nature. So usually I'm a huge proponent of doing your underarm, your side seam of your garment and your underarm of your sleeve, and then setting the sleeve in a circle. You don't have to do that. I don't care. But I really like the way the sleeve fits when you set it in, and that's what that act is called, setting the sleeve in. But I know a lot of folks like to sew it like this, where you would do the cap of the sleeve to the open garment like this, you know. So here's my armhole. There's my yoke. Here's my armhole like this. I know this is easier. It just isn't my favorite way. That's all. So. All right, I wrote my little cheat sheet here just to make sure I do it the way she has you do it, just in case you're following her instructions. All right, so let's do pin sleeve right side together, lining up fold to raw edge, just like this. So here's my raw edge. This is the right side of my fabric in here, right sides together. I'm gonna put the fold to the raw edge right there, and now I'm gonna stitch this at 3/8 of an inch, but I'm gonna try not to catch in this little edge that I just pressed. You have a day planned with your granddaughter, Eliza? Sounds fun. All right. I'm gonna pull up that, yeah, I'm gonna make sure. I mean, let's face it, I wasn't perfectly accurate sewing that 1/4 inch seam. All right, so I'm gonna look for my notch up here. It's right here, and I think it goes to this right here. So we're just going to pin that right now. I do have some pins here somewhere. That'll be my little, like, my check-in point. All right. It wants to wiggle. And my shirt keeps falling off, which I don't like because then it pulls. So try not to stretch anything out here because you want to make sure this is going to fit. Normally a set-in sleeve the sleeve is bigger than the armhole. And that's why a lot of people like to sew it on with it open like this. You're probably not going to come across that with a flat felled seam or a men's shirt, which typically has like a dropped armhole. It's a dropped shirt sleeve pattern. I'm saying that wrong, but I can't think of the right words. Oh, nice. Yeah, you know, Jan, I feel like that happens with those, right? You're sewing, you're like, this is such a quick project, and you get to the neckband, you're like, this is now the longest project I've sewn in a while, because invariably the pattern they give you does not work for the stretch neckband you're doing. And you're like, oh, my neckband is too loose, or my neckband is too tight. And now I'm taking apart knit stitches, you know. I'm kind of keeping my fold lined up to that raw edge and just hoping that I'm not catching it in the raw edge. It's almost easier to fix it later in this case because you're already doing a little bit much, you know. All right, almost to the end here. Try harding a little bit, but look how easy that'll be right here. The end is always so easy. Like lines up nicely with the armhole curve. All right, let's see. Did I catch it in anywhere? Nope. All right. Ah. That's cute. She's gonna love that. Edible. This is kind of a big 3/8 of an inch there, eh? I'm gonna leave it. But I'm gonna use these scissors because they're a little easier. A longer blade is a little easier. I'm gonna trim this a little bit down. Because now I'm gonna hem this over that seam we just did. I'm a little more accurate here with the 3/8. You know, it was 3/8 on my machine, but I think it's because I let a little bit of this raw edge stick out because I didn't tidy it up first. You know, it's actually a little safer to do it like this. But you just gotta make sure you don't cut your garment. And it's always easier to do this not on camera, like when you're not trying to keep your work like this out in front of you. It's kind of awkward. You know, it'd be so nice to have a camera that's like right here. My perspective, it would be the most accurate. Like I see a lot of really great sewists out there doing some amazing videos, but the camera angle is really tough, you know, and I feel their pain. That is a hard part to figure out. That's awesome. Exactly, Jan, right? Yeah, right. I know. Kitchen experiments, those are the best. Look at it. I kind of hacked that. Let's smooth it out a little bit. What was all this thread here? Oh, I forgot to start my, oh no, it's just a thread. Okay, cool. I threaded my machine right before we started, so I was like, oh, I probably forgot to sew a little bit. All right, so, you know, because of the sewing confessions thing, we'll iron this. Now I feel a little shamed that everything I do is a no-no. No, I actually don't care at all. I feel like if you're gonna sew with that kind of pressure, that everything you do could potentially be a no-no, no wonder people, you know, it gets really stressful. It's already such a hard craft and skill, you know? So one thing I feel like I paid attention to this time is the fact that on an armhole using a flat belt seam, one line of stitching will be visible on the outside of the garment, whereas the flat felt seam on the underarm, the side seam and the underarm, that long seam, there's going to be 2 rows of stitching visible. And I'm wondering now if that's where I got turned around making that flannel one for my husband for Christmas last year. Remember I told you guys I was like, I somehow put my sleeves on. I don't even remember now what happened, but it didn't go well. they looked beautiful and they turned out to be on the inside out or something. I can't remember. Thankfully with flat fell and fabric you can't tell the right side of, it worked out. I lucked out on that one. So make sure you're pulling this down, because this right here, the seam right here, you don't want to get a gap, right? This is the right side of the garment. So let's see, we're going this way. So here, let's press this from the right side right now so we can make sure, right? This thickness right here of this yoke looks like it's flattening out my curve right here, so I'm gonna kind of look at that too. All right. Sorry, I forgot to turn the monitor to look at the chat, but I'm almost done here. I'll be at the machine in a second. My slits are a little too big though. Good thing that this first one is on the inside, and that there's no notches on the the side seam and the underarm. All right, I think I feel pretty good about that. You found a new, oh, vlogger. Christy of the Stitch Collective. Oh, cool. She makes custom labels. Neat. Yeah, me too, Louise. I think that was a good choice. This isn't such a weird combo, you know? He likes details like that too. Yeah, I know it's not completely smoothed out, but I feel okay. I'm going to work on it as I go. So I'm going to pull this apart like this so I make sure I don't get like a little, you know, a little lip on that seam there. Because if it's not pulled apart, do you want me to pull down the camera today? Ooh, it just got bright. So this is right here, you're looking at my armhole seam right here. So as I'm sewing it, I'm going to pull this apart as I go, because otherwise you might get a little like what I call a Dunlop. You'll Dunlap, you know, like that. You'll get a little lapping of your seam there. Do you remember that expression when, I don't remember where it came from, but it was something to do with like eating too much and you Dunlapped your belt, you know? Alright, so I'm pulling apart, and I'm going to use my awl. And I'm going to try to keep this nice and flat as well, because this has a bit of a curve. All your years of binding that I've been forcing you to do is now finally coming in handy. You're welcome. So we're on the inside of the garment. This stitching is going to show on the right side. So see my notch, I did just a little too deep there. So I'm going to I think I'm going to kind of finesse this as I go. You could pin it. Pinning it might be worthwhile, you know? Can you see that? Can't see at all. You can't see at all. Let me brighten it up a little bit. Just don't look over here. I'll leave this here so I don't blind you. Hey, Milan, you're back already? That was fast. I feel like I barely got anything done in the time you went to go get your daughter. Yeah, I'm glad that this one's on the inside, since I slit that a little deep. Because this is making this a little tricky right there. So that that notch, that slit isn't have raw edge showing. I'm try-harding a little bit. Yeah, I should have pinned it. And then I could have sewed over my pins like I'm not supposed to. I will let this go, I promise. Eventually. You know, the other thing I've been thinking about is I know that compared to some folks, I'm young, right? But compared to others, I'm not. And it just started dawning on me that I am finally like at that point where I can say I know best on that, you know? Hey Daphne, how's it going? Nice to see you. Sorry, I have it really, the brightness really turned up so you can see this dark fabric. I'm flat felling an armhole. And it took me a while to figure out, like, you know, I don't dye my hair, so my hair turned, you know, white really young. And so I've probably looked older for a long time. I should have been using this to my advantage, you know. If there's people out there that created these sewing rules, why can't I be one of those people creating them? I got the experience. Been doing this longer than anybody I know. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, Malin. Well, that makes sense. That's probably smart, too. All right, so a little touch and go right here. Look at that. It looks really nice. I don't think that's too bad right there for potential torquing. This looks really nice. Cool. I know. Right, Jan? Alright, so where's my other sleeve? Here's my other sleeve. I'm going to leave it. If you guys need me to turn down the brightness or raise up the camera, you just tell me. It's all for you. Alright, so again, so if you missed the first one, I pressed the seam of the sleeve, the raw edge of the sleeve cap here, 1/4 inch toward the right side. This is, the squares are my right side. I know there's squares on both, but this is only squares, right? So this is the right side. I pressed 1/4 inch down, and now I'm going to line it up to the armhole of the garment. I'm going to line up this fold to the raw edge right here, just like this. I don't get to do these very often myself, so I have to always like look at the directions. And then I'm going to sew it at 3/8 of an inch. I promise I did that on the first pass, but you know, look at that. This is my 3/8 line right here. It didn't look like, though, some of it looked like 1/2 inch, huh? Yeah, right, Louise? Yeah, I was taught that. I was taught to always pin perpendicular so you can sew over them. There were a couple things on there like that I didn't even think. What was the other one? Like some of them I was like, psh, that's not a no-no or a confession or even like worth mentioning. I was like, what? But like putting pins in your mouth, you should stop doing that. That's not a sewing no-no. That's just a safety gross thing. So just stop that. One time I remember putting pins in my mouth and they tasted like chocolate. They were my pins. No one else had used them, I promise. But that was it. I was like, nope, no more. I am not doing that. That's disgusting. I can't believe because I ate something chocolatey the last time. Now that's a sewing confession. That's a gross germ confession, if ever there was one, right? And I remember being in college and everyone did, you know, put those pins in their mouth. And you would borrow people's pins. You would find one, you know, we didn't even think anything of it. So yeah, just stop doing that. And someone in the comments wrote, "Oh, I stopped doing that because I read a story about a woman who accidentally inhaled a pin and had to have it surgically removed." I was like, eh. Yeah, you just stop that. All right, so here I am. I'm lining up my fold to the raw edge there, and just sewing it at a 3/8 of an inch. Right there. And hoping not to catch the fold in the seam, the edge that I've turned down. I'll go back and fix it if I did though. I'm just going to sew it right now because it's a little easier than managing that as well. You know, the other thing, I know I'm harping on this whole like sewing confession thing. Nothing against Love to Sew podcast, you guys. I just thought it was a weird, it's a kind of a weird way to not shame you, but shame you. Yeah, right, Melon? I mean, you don't have to sew over pins. I pull them out just because mainly the way I look at it is if I can hopefully prevent any potential things I do to my machine that require a mechanic to come out, because that costs me, you know, so much money. You know, it costs me like $300 to $600 to have someone come out. I will, you know, like I don't like, it's not worth it. But that is not something that's a guarantee. That's not going to hurt your machine either. You know, like I just try and avoid anything. But you know, one of the things I was thinking about is like, if you were to ask everybody how they made a grilled cheese or yeah, like just something that we all probably know how to make. If you saw how many different ways there are to make one, you wouldn't think that there are no-nos, right? Dan, I don't know Hail Marys. Oh my gosh, Terry. Oh. Wow. Well, that's something you know, how would you avoid that? I have had pins land in my water cup though, but I knew it when it happened. Because I was like, where did that go? I heard it, and then I thought it hit the side of my glass on the outside, and then I saw it in my glass. So there we go. Oh yeah, yeah, right. What luck, Louise. All right, so let's check, see if I didn't stitch down. Almost there. Stitch down my little fold here. All right. Now let's trim this down. As long as you trim this to narrower than your folded edge, you're fine. Do whatever measurement you want. Yeah, I'm a little cup. Yep. I think about how long I've been sewing, how many hours I have sewing. It is not just about how long I have been sewing, because you can be sewing for 30 years and still not have as many hours as someone else, right? And I do. I've been a production sewer, I've run a factory, I've worked in factories, I worked at places, you know. I've almost sewn every day of my life practically, you know, compared to how many days I haven't. And so the number of bad things that have happened to me is so remarkably few when you think about it. Wow, I wonder if it's the kind of pin. Oh, yeah, because there's a pet in the house. Yeah. Yeah. That would be a bummer. All right, let's iron this, and I'll remember to turn my camera thingy. I mean my monitor. Yeah, the worst to me is when you get the head of the pin, the ball, stuck in the area where the needle goes down into the machine and through the throat plate. That right there where your feed dogs, and then there's the hole where your machine. If you get your head of your pin there, sometimes you can't get anything to move to get that pin out because the pin is pointing that way, right? And so you can't even grab it. I've had that happen a couple times. I had it happen actually just the other day, and I couldn't see. I didn't know there was a pin in there. That might have been with you guys, actually. Wasn't that with you guys? I just think it ended up not being an issue, so I didn't have to worry about it. All right, we're going this way. Let's press from this side so we make sure we get our cap nice. Because this is the right side. And we're going to fold it over and stitch it down just like we did. Just making sure it goes that way. Got all this calcium. I always think it's whiteout and I get a little panicky. I don't know why, because I don't use whiteout. I don't know why I would think whiteout would be on my sewing project, but it's so white and it looks just like it, you know? All right. That looks better than the first one. Oh, my shirt was in my glass of water. Oops. Speaking of things in water. You know what, Jan? Do you want me to, like, I don't know. I can probably, I have done that a few times. And I'm just here to say it's not as bad as you think. Okay? Don't worry about it. If you worry about it, you might manifest it too soon. You know? I've done it really, really, really bad, and but that was in such a unique situation with my binding machine that you probably won't encounter that. So, yeah. It's not as bad as you think. I think getting hit by the screw on the side where the presser foot, that thing right there, sometimes the screw will hit my hand. I hate that. Hurts more to me. Because it's like, you know, it's like when you bonk your head on the kitchen cabinet and it like instantly creates that feeling of fury. Like this irrational like anger. That's what that does to me. Whereas the getting like poked with the needle, like sewing myself, isn't nearly as angering. It's a little more like whoa, and it happens so quickly, and you're not going to be threaded to the machine like people think that's not going to happen. The needle will probably break, or you will have moved by the time it's done. You're already moving out of the way because instinctually you knew you were kind of close before you even got sewn. So you're already probably removing your hand, and then you're like, whoa, I just sewed myself, you know? I don't know if that makes you feel better. Yeah, I think that's smart, Elizabeth. I don't throw away pins that have been dropped, but if they are at all hard to push through or they're bent at all, I throw them right in the trash. This is a little too much fabric right here. Yeah. Barbara, oof. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the bobbin case went weird because there could have been a fragment of your needle in there, you know? On the industrial machine, when you sew yourself on the industrial machine, you don't sew yourself once, you sew yourself probably 2 or 3 times before you know. It goes bam, bam, bam. So that's why I say on the home machine, it's not as bad. I've done it on the home machine too. I sound so reckless, but I'm telling you guys, I can count the number of times on one hand that I've sewn myself. And the only time that I really hate that to remember is the binding machine one. No, I won't even describe it. I've described it to you before. Once is enough. I could probably do a little better here. I feel like this is a little too much fabric right here. I'm glad this is the inside. The other thing I did, this is one thing I will say, when you're reaching across the table to grab your rotary knife, really make sure there's no way the blade can get you, because one time when I did that, as I pulled it like this was the circle of the road. I pulled it like this to grab it, thinking I would be above where the blade is when I'm grabbing it. And what happened was it caught on a snag. I didn't even know the middle of my rotary mat had a snag in the plastic because it's white and like you can't see it. And it's probably just like something fell on it, and I didn't, you don't cut in the middle of the mat. It's a huge table. And as I was pulling it, it pushed the little lever to open my rotary knife. That was one time where I almost had to get stitches. So anytime you're reaching, because I was reaching really far across the table to grab it, that one was pretty bad. I don't think I've told you guys about that one. You can still see the aftermath of that on one of my mats. I couldn't even show Rayanne. She couldn't even help me because I was like, yeah, I may need you to revive me. So please stay away for a second. All right, so let's pin this one. I think I feel like I have a little too much right here. So maybe if I think it's, oh, I know what, that's why. See, over here, let's see. The folded edge is kind of behind here, and then it kind of moves. I like this fold to go over this, like that. I think that is a little easier to manage. You know? Hey Esther, how's it going? Oh wow, Louise. Yeah, but you know what, Jan? Your needle isn't as dirty as you think. It's a pretty small puncture. It's like a little it'll just glance off of you. You know, because you're not under it. I don't know how far we should talk about this. There are people like, exit. I think the most scared I've been is sewing silk kimonos. Oh, I sewed silk kimonos and I've sewn terry cloth robes, and the needles would break. And one time when I was doing the terry cloth robes, I kept breaking the needle every single time at the shoulder armhole juncture. And it hit me on my cheekbone every single time. And I started doing this when I was sewing, kind of scared, because I could not get it. No matter what I did, I would try and go over it. It would go snap, and it would hit me right here. I had this little red mark for a few days there. Yeah, it was a home machine. It just wasn't probably a good choice for those terry cloth robes, you know. It all worked out, but life is too short for bad pins. Well said. That's me, you know, when I worked with the high school students and they would come in with thread on wood spools or bent pins, and I would just throw them in the trash. No ceremony about it. They're like, hey, I'm like, I'll get you more. I wanted them to see how easy it was. Just throw that away, you know, like we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to throw it away. Like, it's no big deal. This is something you know, you just need to get a new one. It'll be fine. All right, so this is one of those junctures, and I actually think I'm going to open it up again, and I think I'm just going to trim a little bit of this yoke juncture. Let's see if that helps flatten it out. Yeah, that did actually help flatten it out a little bit. I don't want to get any torquing, and I feel like I'm pulling a little too much. I might get a little torquing on the other side. No. Louise, sorry. I'm sorry, yeah, we don't have to talk about them anymore. Yeah, wearing glasses is good. So, Louise, this pattern was set up for these seam allowances. That's why I've been trying to follow the directions so that just in case someone's using the directions for this particular shirt, I'm not going against it. So, the sleeve on the cap has a 1/4 inch seam, whereas the armhole on the body of the garment has a 3/8 inch. And then on the side seam and the underarm, it's different yet again. So it's a little wider. I can't remember what it is on the, I'm gonna have to look it up. All right. There we go. What's that? Okay. Look at how flat that is. Even I'm impressed with that. Wow, okay. This is one of my better flat felt seams. This fabric is really nice to work with. I'm happy with that. All right, let me see what her seam allowance is. Because I just wrote, this was my little note. Which you can't see because I have it so overexposed. Look at how I have it sitting here. So I have this pile of magnets right here from sewing pattern holders for chicken boots. And then I just put this like this and it held it on there. They're super strong neodymium magnets. Yeah. You know what, Barbara? I have 2 pairs of glasses. I have these for here. They're my computer glasses. And then I have a regular pair now for like, the only reason I use them for driving is because I have an astigmatism and my head kind of hurts sometimes. So that just kind of relieves the strain, you know? But because of the pandemic, I couldn't get into my eye doctor and I really needed glasses. And so I splurged and got 3 pairs. So I got, so I could have specific computer and sewing glasses. Because before it was like my distance one and my close-up one. Now I have like a computer distance and a sewing distance. And I did it through Warby Parker, so it's super affordable. And most insurance companies take it too. So that was my splurge. I was like, I am done like not being able to see through my glasses because they were so scratched. All right, so the main seams. So follow along here. So the shirt back and sleeve back, so the whole back of the garment, is a 1/4 inch. The front and the sleeve front are 5/8. And she's talking about the underarm and the side seam, not the cap. So the back is a 1/4, the front is 5/8. The back is a 1/4, the front is 5/8. Yeah. So this one is sewn a little bit more like a French seam. Oh, my note is my my cheat sheet for the flat felt seam on this armhole. That's all. Okay, what was it? 1/4, oh my gosh. See, I almost wrote this down, but I was like, oh, that makes sense. So you won't have to remember that. Yeah, right, Barbara? Yeah, sewing and computer. It's been awesome. And because they're bifocals, and I got progressives, and I really resisted that because people made it sound like you can get kind of nauseous with them, and I get nauseous easy. They've been so much better than the bifocals. In fact, I was having neck issues because I was looking past that line doing this, and I don't have to do that. But you guys might all be on the progressive train, and I wasn't, so. The back is 1/4, the front is 5/8. So let's just write that on my note before I ask you guys one more time. This is my zipper fly cheat sheet. Sorry, it's so overexposed. Flat fell, side seam. The back is 1/4, front is 5/8. I have to sing it in a sing song. Those pens are so hard to get the caps on. Okay. So on this one, we're going to sew this wrong sides together. Right? Wrong sides together. And the back is 1/4, the front is 5/8. So this is the 5/8 side and this is the 1/4 side, right? So you're going to line it up on the seam line, right? So let's see. I'm going to put this under my machine where 5/8 is. All right. So that's where 5/8 is. So now I want to line this up 1/4 of an inch past that, like that. Basically, the easy way to figure this out without having to do what I just did is make sure you have 3/8 of an inch right here showing on this underside. All right. And we're going to sew this wrong sides together. Try and get some fabric up there. Right, Esther? I just wrote it down. I wrote, press under 1/4 inch on sleeve toward right side. That was my first line. If you want to write it down right now, go grab a pen and paper, and I'll tell you what I wrote down to remind myself. Okay? So first thing I wrote, press under 1/4 inch on sleeve toward right side. Pin sleeve right sides together, lining up the fold to the raw edge. Sew with a 3/8 inch seam. Trim the seam allowance to 1/4 inch. And then you do your last stitch where you fold it under and stitch it down. Yeah, right, Ray? Totally. I know, right, Jan? I will be. Once I get the little sing-song thing, it's like, down. All right. I'm going to move this a little bit over. Kind of double checking it. And that is using their instructions. All right, so when you go to line this up, remember that this stitching isn't it's this hem. So this is my fold edge of my hem. And we see on this side the seam and then the stitching. So the stitching goes to that hemmed edge. And if you get this a little bit off, it's going to be okay because you have one more chance at fixing it when we do the hem. If you only get a little bit off, not a lot off. You know what? Can you see my throat plate? You probably can't, but it's written on there. See that? That's how I eyeball it. I'm not eyeballing it. I'm pretty good at eyeballing it, but you guys see me do it a little bit different all the time. So there we go. Wrong sides together. Oh, I gotta match my plaids. Oh, dang. Can I fix that when I do my next seam? Can I? I think I can. Can I? Let's see. I gotta match my plaids, you guys. It's a little bit of a stretch in a couple places. Like, it's better here. And maybe I'm gonna make it a little easier for myself. Let's see. It's okay. It's okay on the sleeve. Let's take it out about right here. I want to match my plaids. Because I can this time, right? And because people, you know, are going to see it. Right, Esther? I know. I say write it down however it makes sense to you, you know? Like, you can just read her instructions in the pattern. Yeah. Yeah, this is the wrong side. Stop making me doubt. So on the sleeve, you do it differently. So on the sleeve, you see one row of stitching at the very end, and then on the underarm, you see 2 rows. You don't have to. You could do it the other way. I'm just following her instructions, which I obviously did not read when I did my husband's last one, because that's when I got myself into my little old pickle. And I just, you know, got lucky because the fabric was really hard to see the right from the wrong side. It was definitely a Christmas sewing miracle. And I made I was making my daughter an Archer button up using like a organic cotton Sherpa in the body. So like instead of like it being like the fake Sherpa, not fake Sherpa, the Sherpa like that super soft stuff that's synthetic. She has a thing about being shocked. She has a lot of extra electrical energy in her, and she gets shocked really easily. So I found her a cotton Sherpa, and I made the body of her Archer in that. Is this too bright, you guys? All right, so let's see if I can get this a little bit more matching on the plaid here. Yeah, you're concentrating hard, Louise. Give you a chance to catch up now that I had to take out a seam. It's a little harder to match your plaids sewing it wrong sides together, I feel like. You know? Or is it? Maybe it should be easier. Maybe I'm making it hard. All right. You know, I still say all the time that the presser fit's always pushing your fabric like this, right? It's pulling it this way, and the feed dogs are pulling it, the underlayer, that way. So it can get kind of tricky to match these things up sometimes, you know? That's a lot better. Okay. Let's do the other side. And then we'll iron it all at once. I have this really long thread attacking me here. I keep moving it out of the way. All right, so this time, oh, this is where I was in my water glass. It's all wet. The back is 1/4, the front is 5/8. All right, so we're gonna start from the bottom so that I can do the 1/4 inch on top, so it's a little easier to see. Just like this. And look at that, this is a little bit off. See how this is there's 1/4 inch below this green line, where here it's the green line exactly. So we'll just fix that right now and hope that when we get to the underarm, it'll all be okay. Alright. So, you know, on my throat plate, because it has a 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4, if I line this edge up to the 1/4 inch on the throat plate and this on the 5/8, that's the easy way. I just realized that I was making it even a little harder than it needed to be. All right, got it going. Now I like to do that. I got to get the back tack in, and then now I can kind of arrange everything. Got my sewing legs under me. Use the machine as like a helping hand, you know, when you're in these little spots where you're trying to make sure everything's lined up. All right, let's see. Let's get this, the underarm kind of lined up. Work on my plaid a little bit. I'm actually going to sew a little bit further before I do that so that the plaid stays lined up for longer. I'd rather the plaid be a little bit off up there and be okay here, because this is what people will see. They're not going to see the underarm as well, but it is really nice to match it, right? And plus the top of the side seam on the body has a little bit of a curve, and it'll be a little stretchy when I go to hem it, and maybe I can kind of smooth out anything that isn't lining up as well as I want it to. If you get your seam allowances a little bit off on this, I just don't think it's a big deal, because it's a loose shirt, you know. All right, so let's take this to the iron, and we're going to trim the threads and fold it over. Get away from my water glass there. I can't wait to hear how yours goes, Esther. You have to let me know. Are you making it for someone in your family? And do they know? My husband pretty much knows I'm making this. It's his birthday next Friday. All right, so we're on the right side of the garment, and we're basically just going to hem this over it like that. Yeah, I was linking, so I've been trying to work on like getting better about linking, like in the description of this video, once I'm done today, there'll be a link directly to the Fairfield button up on my website. So then that way people can easily find part 1, you know, the cutting video and then the sewing video. And I'm going back and like doing this right now. So I've done all of 2020. But you guys, man, I did not realize like really how bad we were having it with the internet in January. Because there's like 3 or 4 times where the stream crashed. Remember that? And I haven't even gone past into December, so I know I'm going to encounter more. Because remember, we found out that there was a rat in the attic and it was eating the wires. I just thought that was just normal internet stuff, but no. So it's kind of, I want to appreciate that my stream doesn't crash anymore. It's so awesome. I'm so glad that we fixed that. Although he is downgrading my internet starting in September, so, you know, we'll see. All right, so I'm just going to iron this over. Let's get rid of some more of these little threads. It is Louise. Ooh, look at that. Pattern magic. Man, the steam that comes out of my iron is so flippin' hot. Look at that. Can you see that? Oh, nice. Oh, perfect, Esther. I do that too. When I made my first one of these for Michael, I asked him, "What's your favorite shirt in your closet, and what's your least favorite?" I like to find out what doesn't work too, you know? So I don't inadvertently get too clever and then do that, and then I'm like, "Oh, you don't like that?" Like I did that on his Jutland jeans. I didn't put the coin pocket in it because I thought, "Oh, I'm so clever. Nobody likes the coin pocket. I hate the coin pocket." And like a couple months later, he was like, I asked him, I was like, "So after you've worn these a few times, what do you think? You know, like, what would you want different?" And he was like, "Well, I really miss the coin pocket." He's like, "I really use that thing." I was like, oh, okay. He's all, maybe, I don't know if we could figure out a way, like, how to do that. I was like, "Oh, it came with that pattern piece. I just threw it away." He was like, "Oh, okay." So he's like, "Yeah, I don't have a place for coins otherwise." I was like, "Okay." Now we don't, he doesn't get to leave the house, so it doesn't really matter. All right, this is a little bulky right here, so I'm going to trim that. He's a size smaller in the chest. Oh, really, Pastor? That's awesome. Oh, okay, so, yeah, and I think, what did I do? Am I doing the medium? Or the small? I think I'm doing the small, right? Yeah, I almost tried the extra small as well. I'm glad she offered sizes that small, you know? So maybe I'll work on matching the seam right here and then get back on track with the plaid. Did I match it? I feel like I did, but at this angle, it's a little hard. Like the angle of the sleeve. Michael still has the very first shirt I ever made him. I'll have to bring it in sometime. I wonder what it would be like to see him wear that. It's this nice butter yellow hemp. It looks so good on him. Just got raggedy, I think. All right. Nice. That's awesome. Doing your trial run then? Cool. What kind of fabric are you using? So also, you guys, I'm trying to figure out how to maybe sew Brookie something, and she has this amazing pattern library and a bunch of needle sharp boxes she hasn't gotten to. So we may be doing like a muslin from afar, fitting from afar, you know? I think it'll be fun. You know, I don't actually like it when I cut on my wool mat because then it leaves all these fibers here. I should just put the rotary mat down, at least to catch them, you know? It's kind of a pet peeve. Haircut. See that? It's it's not going anywhere. I have a oh, here. I think these things are so goofy, but my family loves them, and I'm kind of like, they're right. They're really useful. Done. That's really cool, Esther. Really neat. What does he think of the process? Is he or she like enjoying that the part of the process as well? I know some folks are kind of like, oh, I don't really like being scrutinized for fitting, you know? And then other folks can get so into it, you're like, yeah, everybody's got an opinion, you know? You're like, I know what I'm doing. And then other folks are kind of like, oh, I don't know. I don't care. Do whatever, you know, and that's not very helpful. Do whatever you think is best, and you're like, yeah, well, I'm trying to figure that out, you know? I almost cut my shirt just now. Yes, you have been kind to the future you. We like that around here. Be kind to your future self. I have a friend that just does so much for others, and I want to tell them, what if you treated yourself the way you treat everybody else? What if you gave the support you give to all of us to yourself, you know? Sorry, I kind of start running out of witty banter when I have to iron this much, you know? I'm trying to hurry for you guys. So I asked Michael, I was like, so do you care what color like our bed quilt is, you know? He's like, no, I actually don't. I was like, okay, because I kind of want to do 2 twin quilts for that Jelly Roll race quilt we're doing in August. But now I can't decide, you know? I did trim that a little bit. Okay. When I trimmed that, I just kind of went away. You could even do a little more, probably. You know, like, get rid of some of this bulk here, like that. It'll make it lay straighter. Your fold will lay straighter. Oh, that's awesome, Esther. You're an engineer. I wish someone would have told me that was an option. Dear Stella Cotton. Oh, cool. Really? Ooh, I'm kind of curious now. I didn't know. I know Dear Stella prints, right? I just didn't know they made the fabrics. That'll be good for that. I'm excited now. I want to see. I think I just unironed this. All right, we are ready to sew. It's kind of like ready to go. Ready to sew. Let's do it. You haven't sewn with hemp, Jan? You know, it was really popular in the like late 90s. Eco fabrics became a kind of a really big thing, and they were pretty easy to find. Which is ironic because the lament was that they were so hard to find, and now I feel like they've kind of slipped away. I really love the lighter weight hemps. The fabric is super strong. And it can be a little thick and boardy. In fact, I feel like you see more hemp used in rugged applications. But this shirt was so nice. And at first it was pretty stiff, but it washed and it got softer and softer and softer. Here's the drawback about hemp. You think linen grows? Wait till you try hemp. It definitely relaxes depending on the weave and everything. I used to buy it from a vendor occasionally, and they had such an amazing array, but it got harder and harder to find garment weight. It was mostly heavy duty stuff. So, all right, so here we are now. I am doing a short sleeve shirt, right? We all know that. Doing this flat veil seam on a short sleeve shirt is going to be far easier than if you were doing on a long sleeve shirt. And so you're just going to have to ooch along best you can, sewing your shirt and not sewing it to the shirt underneath when you're in your armhole. Okay, so I'm going to start from the bottom, kind of get it going, and then it'll be easier to deal with sewing in the hole of the sleeve, and just kind of just do a little bit at a time, and I'll show you what I mean when we get up there. Yeah, and I feel like garment fabrics were kind of hard to find back then, Jan, so I was lucky I was living somewhere where they were very into hemp fabrics and stuff. So the fabric stores were looking for them pretty consistently. Let me use this all to keep this all lined up. No pun intended. Or pun intended. Yeah. Alright, so this is where, this is bugging me. It's been bugging me since I saw it at the ironing board. This is where I back tack to fix my plaid, forgetting you would see it on the outside. This is where my plaid gets a little bit off. So here we are. So you'll see, like, now I just have this little hole I have to get through. So if you're doing a long sleeve, it is possible, because it's just the same as like if you were doing it on pants. It is possible. You just need to struggle a little bit and it's okay. Just make sure you do a little bit at a time and make sure you're not sewing the other side of the garment. But as long as you can see a couple inches, you're good. See if I can get the plaid back on track by the time I get to the bottom. There we go. And then you have to kind of wiggle it out. I saw, here we go. Oh, that was loose. Okay. Nice. Wow. Looks good. Let's do the side now. I love sewing with plaids because it's like it gives you a guide. A high pressure guide, but hey, it's a guide. And this is a pretty forgiving plaid. Like, I'm not worried about the repeat of the plaid going this way, only this way. And on some patterns, that would be pretty obvious if you weren't matching that up. It might be a little distracting, but here it blends in pretty good. This is so nice and finished. Oh, I thought I ran out of bobbin. Of course I would, you know. It's the last seam. Okay, here we are again at that little tight area of your armhole and the sleeve. The good news is, like, even if you're doing the long sleeve, having the slit of the placket is going to kind of help give you a bigger hole right here. So, because if you could imagine this being the long sleeve, and there's a big slit, you know, like a 6-inch slit right there, you'd have a much bigger hole. So it's easier than you think if you're doing the long sleeve. So, yeah, so true, Jan. So hard to find. Thanks, Ray. Yeah, it looks good. All right. What's that? Oh, okay. I was like, what's that? Maybe I should have put the pocket on the bias so we could find it. Looks good. All right, so this just needs hems, and then we're going to do our shirt sleeve placket demo. Get the camera out of my face now. So don't forget to make sure that your center fronts line up when you do, before you do your hem. So line it up here at your collar stand there, like that. Try and keep it relaxed. I'm also trying to match plaids, so, you know, there's that. Wait. Why does that look off? Color-wise. Wait a minute. You guys saw me cut this. Oh no, Terry. Wake him up. This is really off. Look at that. It didn't, when I pinned this, it didn't look off at all. Wow. What the heck? Let's go like this. This is how it goes. Oh, okay. There it is. It's okay. Oh my gosh. I was like, what? Why is that so far off? It was fine. All right, I'm going to match up my center fronts like this instead because of the plaid. Oh my gosh. There we go, like that. That. And so if you don't have a plaid, you need to make sure your center fronts line up. Right? Just like that. I'm going to trim that a little bit. Ah, thanks, Ryan. And welcome. Thanks for coming. Yeah, we kind of decided that on the fly. I did the back yoke a contrast and then the collar stand on the inside. I sometimes can't cut and talk. Oh, wait, I know, right, Malin? Can you move the pocket a little bit away from the bust? So see, this is how the shirt will look when it's buttoned. You can see I have a little bit of contrast right here. Not much. You won't see it, you know, like he will be right here. But when it's unbuttoned a little bit, you will see a little bit of the contrast and the under collar's contrast. But for the most part, it's all not except for the yoke. Whoop, whoop. All right, let's do the hem here. So Esther, are you doing a short sleeve or long sleeve with the placket? I would, Penny, interface the top of the pocket. You don't have to, but it might make it easier to sew on. Do you guys want me to tone down the brightness yet? You just need to let me know. Might get all these threads and stuff. All right, so I like to get so there's a lot of ways to do this. You can just fold like this. Sometimes that does give you a nice right angle right here, which is what we're going for, right? And you could do that. I'm noticing that this isn't caught in here very well. I think I'm gonna fix that later though, because I don't want to upset my plaid. I have the buttons and buttonholes to go, which will help. So, but the other thing you can do, depending on what you've got going on there, is you can turn in the corner down, fold it up, and then fold it like this. And it gets that away from the center front. The only problem with this sometimes is this gets a little stretched and I get this weird little like point like this. So I think I'm just going to sew it straight up and down, and I'm going to probably stitch across that like you see in some ready to wear stuff, so that I have a nice right angle there. All right. Boy, do I love hemming shirt hems. Not really. Not a big fan of the curve. And all these little threads. Let's get this cleaned up a little bit. Short sleeve. Hey, Brooke. I am wearing my Upton. Short sleeve. Too hot and humid in Virginia. Yeah. You know, Malin, what if you pin the pocket on and then try on the shirt and see? Because sometimes it's okay if the garment is slack on the inside of the pocket, because once you try it, put it on, it's going to be fine. You know? It's kind of bugging me at the placket there. I don't know how that happened. We all saw it when it was done. It was fine. This is a definite finessing. The curve is on the bias, so utilize the bias. Even if you're stretching it out a little bit to get it to be nice and flat and not torqued, once it's washed and ironed and stuff, it's gonna calm down. It's gonna be fine. Brooke, I was telling them that we might do like a muslin from afar, fitting from afar project together. You hate him, you're gonna use bias, yeah. Yeah, so maybe it'll be fine when you're wearing it, Malin, because your bust is gonna fill up that spot, you know? Yeah, I like this dress a lot, Brooke. I feel like it looks a little dressy because of the solid red, so I don't wear it as much, but I don't go anywhere, so, and I made it because I wanted a red dress. And the bust isn't quite in the right spot on me, but it's pretty invisible. I'm just gonna get rid of that. Yeah, I know. Getting the puckers on this. Look at this. Look at this mess. You got a gap here. It's flat here. Torquing here. I don't even know why I went to the side seam to try and even get that going. So I just try and do it in little bursts. I think also not doing too wide of a hem is pretty critical to not getting those torquing in the gathers. I think there's also a lot better ways to go about this and like ensure more of a perfect hem, and I'm definitely just doing it my own little way here, you know? Oh wow, has it? That's a bummer. We've had a weird summer. It'll get incredibly hot and then it'll cool off, and I think also it's doubly weird for me because we moved at the beginning of summer, and being like 20 minutes south of the, you know, the town, the city, it's only like 80,000 people, but the weather is much different. So yeah, exactly, Ryan. That's a good point. Kind of like as if the ham is the bust. All right, so I want this to match up, you know? So look at that. So I'm going to take my center fronts and overlap them, and I'm going to fold it right like that. So even though this is a little bit more than I've been folding, I really want them to match, and that's more important to me. So let's pin that. Yeah, I know. Right, Jan? I don't have enough red things. I have only one red sweater, and it's kind of short. That designer, man, everything she designs is so freaking short-waisted. Even when I would try and like account for it, but I love that sweater. Even though the moths love it too. All right, it's a little bit wide right here, so I'm actually going to trim a little bit of this off right here. Don't cut your shirt. There. Right? I want that to be like that. I can do a little bit more. Okay, good. That right angle. I also don't like it when this pushes past my center front, and I almost let that happen. This is it. The placket's gonna go over this side, but still, you know, if this were a women's shirt and we were buttoning it the other way, this would have been my last. This would have been where I ended on that as well, and it would have been the side that actually is buttoning on top. And if I had done that, I would have had to fix it. So let's see, I have a little bit of torquing there. I can iron this all. This looks pretty good though. Let's check it out. Yeah, this is gonna be fine. Yeah, so I get a little bit of this. You see how it's like lifting up? But once that's ironed and pressed, it'll be fine. This right here, I don't really like it when when this is a tight curve, that is a really tricky spot. But I think Terry has the right idea. She uses bias, and that's another good option. Did I use that on this? No. Then you could bias face it. All right, so let's hem the sleeves, and then we're gonna do our shirt sleeve cuff. Shirt sleeve placket. Ooh, look at those flaws in the fabric. Bummer. Good thing that's gonna be on the inside. Okay, so I did a 1 1/4 inch hem allowance, right? So that is like right there. I'm just kind of looking because I have this plaid, you know. Have you heard? I want to make sure I get it straight. I don't have a free arm, so I just hem it from the inside of the sleeve. Let's get rid of some of these threads right here. It's the back tack ones that I can't really hide, right? I want those. I mean, I can trim these too. That's nice, but really I'm worried about the ones that when I turn it under, you still might see. I don't like seeing those. So I'm gonna hem this with just the blue line barely showing. So nice having the guide, you know? Makes it so easy. A plaid guide. That looks straight. Here we go. Last thing. Oh, I didn't show you my buttons. Oh, I'm gonna look at my buttons. I forgot. I set them on my table. So I got these buttons from Tabitha Sewer. They're wood. What do you guys think? I'll do this last sleeve hem and then we'll see. How are they too white? Not white, but like light. I got some of her buttons for the giveaways in August too. All right, so it was just past the blue line, right? Because they should be the same. I have darker buttons. They're just not as special, you know? just past that blue line. I'll turn it under and start. Okay. Just past the blue line, yeah, okay. It looked different on the side. All right, fine, I'll trim those threads. Yeah, the wood will be fine in the wash. In the dryer. Why? Why are you gasping? Should I worry about that? Oh, so your hubby has preferences for the buttons? Oh, mother of pearl sounds so fancy. I'm more of a tortoiseshell type of gal. That's a bummer, Malin. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, Malin. Do you have to have the pocket? Sometimes it just doesn't look finished, right? Those kinds of shirts without the pocket. All right. Voila. Oops. Let's make this a little darker. Esther. Is that a sewing confession as well? Yeah, I guess we'll see. I used ceramic buttons on that hedgehog dress, and I definitely have reservations about that because I've used those exact ceramic buttons before, and they had to come off the garment. These might be too light, you know? Oh, these things are sticky. You know, I kind of want to stain these darker. I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't know. They look okay. It's really hard to tell on the camera. You know? Recommendation, exactly. All right, well, we can think about it. Cool, well, we're done. Fairfield button up. Such an easy, fun sew. All right, so let's do our shirt sleeve placket because I didn't do a long sleeve version. And a cuff. I'm like, everything's kind of a mess over here. Where's my placket? Oh, here it is. Okay. All right, so this shirt comes with this shirt sleeve placket like this right here. See that? It's a really nice way to finish things. It's really not that hard either. And the cuffs are rounded. This is a pretty heavy duty fabric, and I think it still turned out really great, even though the heavy dutiness can sometimes be like, that's pretty thick. That's the actual, is that the actual shirt rolled over? Is this binding? It might be binding. I can't remember now. All right, so I'm going to try and follow along her instructions so that if you're using the video in conjunction, it might be a good reinforcement. All right, Louise. Time to pay attention. They aren't finished with the protective coating. Yeah, on the camera they look really bright. Wait, did Ryan say that he has okay, yeah. Jan, I've done the same exact thing. And I have done it to thread. I am really good at the Sharpie trick, Jan. In fact, I'm going to tell you one little trick. So if you are ever using a Sharpie, because what happened one time on my own bag was I sewed a webbing handle and I forgot to switch the bobbin to the black. So the top was black, but the bottom was white. And it was a hem of the handle, I think. And so I have learned that when you're using a Sharpie on like synthetics like nylon or polypropylene webbing, the black Sharpie will change colors. It'll change to red, yellow, or blue. Very faint. It's really weird. And in fact, we used it to our advantage when we were tracing things off. So this is what I've learned. Only touch the thread so that you don't do anything weird around the outside. So, yeah, so. All right, so let's see. Where are these instructions at? I didn't make myself a cheat sheet for this because once you kind of get going, it kind of does it for you. Let's see. Can I make that stay? All right. So here's the pattern pieces. So I have this bottom half of a sleeve, right? Here's the slit that's on the sleeve pattern, right? Sewing confessional. I'm going to darken this a little bit more. Every time I open these menus up, I have to slide them out of the way so I can see what it's doing. Okay. All right, here's the cuff pattern pieces. I didn't cut interfacing, but I can, Louise, if you would like me to. Here's the cuff, all right? And here is the placket itself. All right. And so this is cut proper for this sleeve. So if you cut your sleeve and your placket right side up, you'll have the correct one for that sleeve, right? You're not doing the left placket for the right sleeve, in other words, all right? So there's numbers at the bottom here. And so I've transferred those onto my piece so that we can keep track. All right, so, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I even notched it a little bit. You don't have to do any of these things, all right? So this is it. And so let's look at these instructions. All right, so she says to transfer all these markings to this, but I actually don't think you have to do that. Hey, Sydney, how's it going? Okay, cool, Louise. It would be easier to sew it with interfacing. I think in some cases it's easier, right? All right, so I don't think you have to transfer all these markings. You need this slit for sure, and I would just slit it when it's on the table. Now, weirdly, remember when I slit this, I was like, just cut that. Don't worry about it. When I line my thing up here, it actually is taller. The slit's taller. It goes to the top here, and so I think that's kind of weird. I don't know if it's because maybe I did go a little further, but you do need these two slits to match, right? So I'm going to make them match. All right, so we have our two slits matching. And then the reason I say you don't really have to transfer all these markings is because a lot of these lines right here are just iron fold lines. So you can, as long as you can keep track of your numbers here, if you really need that helpful guide, you're fine. I think putting all those lines, you might drive yourself a little bit crazy. So, All right. So let's see, what's the next thing she says? Yeah, so you're gonna put your, so this right here is the back of the sleeve. So the narrow side of your sleeve is the back of the sleeve. And one way to remember that as well is that you're always buttoning away from your center front, right? And so these pleats, these are going to be pleats, and you don't have room for pleats on this narrow spot. So the pleats you have over here that is bigger, that obviously is going to go towards the back. And so that's another way to remember it, if that makes more sense. Oh, nice. Nice to have guests. So here we are. I have this right sides together, okay? Does it look like it's right sides? Yeah, you can kind of tell the difference between this fabric. All right, and then we're gonna stitch around this box right here, okay? I'm just making sure I'm doing exactly how she says, just in case. I don't want to do it differently, because sometimes I just do this in a totally different order with the same result, you know? Yep. And this stitching line right here, this is 3 and 4. I don't know if you can see my tiny little numbers there, but they're there. I kind of want to read ahead so I can just keep going. Yeah, and then we're going to iron 1 and 6. And this right here, this little 5 line right here. All right, so let's do our box around. And so you can, there's a little, like, this is the 3 line right here. I put a tiny little notch there. It's basically a 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to use this dark thread. I did this kind of intentionally so you can see where I'm stitching. All right, so we're going to go around. And I'm actually going to go across this slit because I don't want to make this any taller than it should be. And I'm going to explain that better in a second. Because like you only need this box right here. So this rectangle, the 3 and the 4, that's a stitch line. This Y is a cut line. So I'm going to cut into these corners right here. Just like that. And you go all the way into the corner. Don't be shy about that. Get right up in the corner. If you don't, you might end up having to come back and clip it again. So if you're a little nervous about it, you know, don't, and then you can see what I mean. Because once you turn this to the other side, you're going to have to be able to get this all nice and flat, right? All right, so now here we are. We have our box and we have our Y cut. We already did big stuff, okay? Now we're going to iron these long edges of this 6, this little 5 here, and we're going to clip right here up to the 5 line. Here's our 5 line, which is right here. So basically, I just clipped right here. Okay, and that's so that we can do this. We can iron, and we're gonna iron this one here. Okay, 1, 5, and 6. Don't be a chicken clipper. Oh man, I think that needs to be a command, Ray. And Louise, you just tell me if you want anything in particular, or to repeat anything, or slow down. All right, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'm gonna fold along this 1 line right here, 1/4 inch. This is basically the whole rest of this placket is this. Ironing and folding. That's what's kind of cool about it. Is the only thing that's scary is this right here, and we're done. We're past that. The scary part's done. Now you can relax. And now all you need to do is use really good ironing and folding skills. And then at the very end, you're going to stitch it down. Got that a little wide. And then right here, this one right here, okay? All right, let me get my directions because I think we can stay here at the iron for a minute. Oh, so you wanted the bias. Did you want the bias placket, Louise? Because I can show you that. All right, so we right now are on number 5. Yep, number 5. And now you're going to fold this down, line it up right here. And you can see why the fact that I did this without really heavy flannel, it's kind of amazing that it worked so good. So now fold down these 2 corners so till they meet. Do they meet? Let's see. Oh, and she says use a bit of glue or a temporary pin to hold this bulky fold in place if you like. Ensure the 2 sides of the triangle are equal. Yeah, so that's fine. Just like that. What's giving you trouble about the cuff, Louise? Okay, here we go. Now we're going to the next page. We're on number 6. And now we're going to push this all through this little hole here. And this is when you'll want to have cut that into those corners really good right here, right? So let's kind of iron this a little bit so it wants to fold there. In fact, let's just do this. I just like doing it this way. Get that nice and crisp right there. Get this one nice and crisp. This fabric is like, it kind of makes it a little too easy to do this, I will admit. Alright, so this is the wrong side of my sleeve. And we're going to iron this edge of this placket right here. I love sewing these. These are so fun. Ooh, look at that square. It looks nice. All right. Tap. Don't burn your fingers. Wonder tape. There you go. Okay. Fold under along line 2. This one's line 2 right here. It's kind of in between these two. And you're going to go like this. You're going to enclose the raw seam allowance. Like that. Okay, now this is where I get confused. I want to make sure it doesn't do this, because it might. I think it might do this. Yeah, the inner column will line up with the center of the vent, right? So now we're going to basically, I think this could have been illustrated better. Because it doesn't look like that. Oh, can you even see that? Oh, you can't see that, never mind. Let me look at mine. Oh, it looks like I did bias though. Right? Like that. And then this. And this goes to the inside. Okay. Here we go. Fold along 5 with wrong sides together to form the main column. Like this. Pin and press. Ooh, I feel like, wait a minute. Stitching. This is not quite. All right, I gotta sit in my sewing machine and look at this. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Maybe I shouldn't have used these instructions. So this is the right side of the sleeve. I sometimes have to do this, you know? It's like, all right. Oh, did I do this wrong? Wait a minute. Oh, there it is right there. Through the right side of the sleeve, press along the bent edges. I think this pocket piece on the sleeve, so the right side of the pocket face. Oh, I did start this wrong. I was supposed to do that to the wrong side of the sleeve. Can't you just ease it, Louise? Oh, I think I did a really bad tutorial here. All right, so we have this. Right? I'm sorry, just a second. Wrong side to right side. So you know what? This isn't correct. If you cut this right side up and the sleeve right side up, you're gonna have a left and a right. Massive eye roll. You need to place the placket pieces on the sleeve so that the right side of the placket faces the wrong side of the sleeve. And that's where I went wrong. Oops. Because I laid it on here the way the picture shows. See? So you need to make sure if you only cut one of these to try that you have a right and a left. And that's not how she has this set up. So I apologize that I did not do my tutorial correctly. So I can still sew this correctly, but this is the wrong side of the sleeve. This should be the front. You know what I mean? Because I did this right sides together and it should have been like this, but then I would have had the wrong placket. That's super annoying. I kind of want to do this another time now. You know? I can make this work, but I'm going to stitch this right here. Now I'm just going to see if I can get it to work, and then maybe I will cut this and do it again. There we go. Right? And then we have our this goes inside there. Yeah, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Yeah, right? Do you have pleats, Louise? Hey, Eliza. Granddaughter of the laptop, awesome. Well, I was all set to do this, but I didn't realize that I had a left placket in a right sleeve or vice versa. And I actually thought it was all fine because I was like, yep, that's fine, that works. Trying it out, it was fun. And this would go here. See, it's supposed to end up like this, and this goes inside there. You stitch it down, and it is all fine. But because we got the wrong placket, because we're on the wrong side, this is why. See? So if you pretended like this was the right side of the sleeve, it's fine. Like that. Right? It's, yeah, this is a bummer. I know, right, Ray? But the thing is, I would have figured out. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's annoying though. This is we've talked about this a few times because sometimes pattern companies will give you the pattern pieces and they're for like the front pant will be the right front and then the back will be the right back. And if you were doing pattern drafting, you would have two rights, you know? And then you can't do any pattern alterations very easily. So I actually think that's an oversight. All right, so we'll press this a little better, and I'm gonna press it so that it covers up that seam right there. And see, this little placket sits on top right here, right? And so that way when we go to stitch this all down, this placket that we just stitched is clean finished on the inside, just like that, right? So we're sewing it correctly, but we don't have the correct side, and it just really annoys me. Oops, don't do that. Because these are actually pretty decent instructions. It's just, my bad. I didn't notice I was on the wrong side. Like incorrect, you know? I'm just going to iron that like that because it's freaking hot. All right, I'll stitch it down now. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the instructions are great. It's just, and the pieces are fine. It's just that if you cut this right side up and the sleeve right side up, you're going to have a left and a right. Not a left and a left or a right and a right. I'm pretty sure, because I did cut it right side up, right, you guys? I think I remember doing that. All right, so let's sew this down right here. We're going to enclose that seam just like this. And you just need to make sure you get all this stuff inside here because we're kind of enclosing it in there in its own little hidey hole, right? And this, I don't know, can you see this like little corner right here? Look at this little spot right here sticking out. So make sure you can tuck that in there. See that? You can trim it off, but I would just tuck it in there because you never know, right? So just tuck that in there. Walk your machine so that it lands in that little corner. I always think of this as like a little house. I should not have cut that. I totally pulled that thread, and I should not have pulled that thread because it really ruined my fabric right there. All right. Man, I could totally ruin the fabric right there. All right, and then where's the bottom? Down here. We'll come down. I'm looking for the top of the... I can feel it. And you go across. And sometimes you'll see people put like a stitch line here and then an X, you know? This is how it looks. See that? It's all enclosed. Clean, finished. You got to make sure you enclose that so it's nice and clean. And then you can do, yeah, some like decorative stitching here. I used to practice this kind of stitching to make sure that I could do it all in one stitch so I only had one back tack. You remember? Do you remember those house diagrams and you had to draw the house with an X in it without lifting up your pin? I've said that before, but I swear I did do that stuff, so. You know? This wiggly brown thread's really flattering, huh? All right, there we go. Right? Make it work. Yeah, exactly, Ray. Yeah. But see, that is, you know, This is exactly what may have happened when I sewed my husband's sleeves inside out. This is probably it. Now I know, right? So actually I'm going to write myself a little note right now in my pattern, because I'm going to be kind to my future self. Okay, so this is the other thing, is that, wait, the right side of the placket faces the wrong side of the sleeve. These aren't a different color, right? Wrong. You know what I mean? Like usually you see the pattern will be a different color, like it is right there. This is it. This is why. So remember, this is so confusing. Like when I made my husband's sleeves and they ended up being inside out and I could not, and I had attached them. And I was like, why? I did everything exactly. At least I know finally why that happened. And this turned out still nice, you know. And it's correct. Like this actually, so now here we have our pleats, right? Like this. Is this how many pleats are in this? So we'll do the cuff now. There's only one pleat. There's only one pleat, right? Louise, are you doing this? Right? Exactly, Ray. Well, I couldn't actually figure out what my mistake, like how I had done that. I think that's what really bugged me about it. The other thing is like, it was, you know, secret sewing. So it was like one of those things where I couldn't look like I was spending more time doing stuff outside of work. So it didn't look like I was making things. So it was a really tricky balance because I made Cricket a quilt, which I'd never done before. And that was a lot of work. And then I made each of them shirts, and then I made my mom a few things. And so I was trying to, and we were streaming a lot in December. You're doing yours is 2 pleats? Okay, Louise. You don't know then. All right. Where's my cuffs? I think they just fell on the ground. Oh, that's the placket. Oh, here's the cuffs. I set them aside right here. All right. So let's, the back is the quarter, the right is 5/8. All right. Let's do this underarm seam here. And then I'll do the placket. I'm going to look at the pattern and make sure. I don't want to like throw thread theory under the bus, you know. All right. Well, here we go. Now I have to do this whole, you know, flat fell seam. Ooh, that is tight. I take it back. This is a tough one. I take it back that it'll be okay. Oh, yeah, right, Eliza? Yeah, that one can really stretch out. I rarely stay stitched, I forget. And especially, Eliza, that one's pretty deep. I had to raise that V up about 2 inches. I just felt it was just a little too deep for me. Oh, here you go. Now you get to see me do a long sleeve flat fell seam. But I won't iron it first because this one actually would take a while. It's so tight in there. The thing is, this fabric is so easy to sew, you know, because it's like a step above muslin. It's just really crisp. It's nice. It's nice fabric, but it's very crisp, which I kind of like for doing these samples. All right, here we are at the end. All right, so here's our sleeve, nice and wrinkly. Is this the, oh right, we're sewing it on this side. Okay, well, That's right. The wrong side is the right side of this one. So my pleat goes that way. Pleat goes towards the placket. And let's hold this up. Let's see how we're doing placket wise. Because this should line up like this over this placket. And we have, so your placket goes. So one thing, Louise, if you're doing the binding placket, you're doing the binding placket, right? Right, Ray? I think that salami you'd have to use it to do the ironing on this, you know? I call it the salami. So when you're binding, if you have two sides of your opening with just the binding finish, one of them gets turned back like this. It's this one, right? So we'll pretend like this is the binding side. So it gets turned back and this one's flat and then it goes over like that, right? Now you can adjust your cuff where this sits a little bit, but like when it's buttoned. But when it gets sewn, if this is a binding side, you need to turn back this side, the side with the pleat. And then this one sticks straight out. And then at the top here, I don't have a sleeve like that. At the top, then it would lay flat like this does. You know, okay, yeah. And then what I like to do at the top of that binding thing right there is I sew across at an angle. I'm trying to think if I can show you real quick. I never have scraps over here though. Let me get a piece of fabric here. I don't even think I have binding sitting over there, do I? Here, I'll use this. Okay. So let's say we have our little slit here, and then we have the binding. It's not biased, but it'll do, I think. I hope. You sewed on the angle. Okay, you know what I mean then. Okay. Oh, it's stretched like a sucker. Yeah, okay. So for those of you who don't know, you're going to sew your binding. I start from the wrong side. I sew up to the top of the slit. I hang this off a little bit. And then I pivot at the slit, come down, finish my binding, right? And then you sew it to the right side and you finish it. And then right here, when your binding is sewn, one of these gets turned. Oh God, I'll just do it. Just so you know. So we have all of the sleeve placket possibilities, right? Hang it off a little bit past the slit like this. This is always kind of awkward. I feel like there's always a better way to do it. Pivot, pull it down, and you may even need to like clip to your needle a little bit. I'm kind of doing a fast job. And then we're going to sew it to the right side. My binding is not really wide enough. And it's not biased. So this is a little narrow for what you would probably be doing for your sleeve placket. But I can still show you what I mean. Okay, so if you're doing the binding placket, right? Your edge will look like this. Okay, like this. And it does this weird little thing up here. Mine's not biased, so it's going to do it even worse. So the side with the pleat, they'll say is this one, gets turned back like this, and just stitch it down like that, right? And now this one, it goes like this. This one goes over the top of this one like this, right? So then that's your placket up there. So basically it's like folded in half. And then I think a great way to reinforce it is to take the binding at the top and just sew across. Kind of force it into that position permanently like that. And it will do this little thing where it pokes out like that a little bit, like it kind of does the center thing. But once it's on and you have these pleats in here, it'll kind of blend in a little bit better. This is the budget placket, but I do this mostly. So, yeah, exactly. A keyhole. You could do this for a keyhole and then just sew across that little angle to keep it nice and flat. Like that. All right. So then for our cuff, I wonder what the seam allowance is. That's why I'm trying to line this up. So let's see. I bet it's 3/8. Let's line this up all the way around. So now, Louise, you can always just cut your cuff to fit. Yeah, so this is about 3/8 of an inch. So now you can do this two different ways. You can sew your cuff to the shirt first along the seam, but I like to sew the cuff together first. And you can do it either way. Once you do a lot of cuffs, you'll start kind of figuring out what you like to do. What evil you don't mind dealing with is really what it boils down to for me. All right, so now we have our cuff, right? I won't go into the details of how to get this nice curve. We'll just focus on getting this to fit. And so I would do the same thing I always do. Start from the wrong side of the sleeve and go to the right side of the sleeve. And this case it'll look weird because this is the right side in this case. So I line up my placket to that edge right there. I sew on the inside of my sleeve. Bye, Elizabeth. Have a great week. Nice. Yeah, I won't be off, but I won't be streaming. And then I'll see you in August. All right, so I lined up the placket to the seam of the cuff just like that. And then you sew it at your seam allowance. I'm going to stick with the 3/8 since I'm pretty sure that's what this is. And when I get to the pleat, like you can adjust this pleat if you need to. It's not a big deal. Yeah. Go around. I've even made the, like, especially when it's not a curved cup, I've even made this bigger or smaller by sewing the seam in a different spot. I'm going to line this up here now. So this is the other side of the sleeve to the edge of the cuff. I'm going to pin it so it stays. And I'm on the cuff side, so we'll pin on the cuff side, just like that. This looks like it's matching pretty good. I like to make sure that this, see this is the cuff right here, the seam of the cuff itself, and then I open this out and I like to make sure this is nice straight so I get a nice right angle at that overlap point. So there we go. And now we're on the right side of the garment, so I'm going to turn it inside out so I can stay sewing because I don't have a free arm. I have to do it that way. So here's my cuff. And now I open out the cuff like this, fold it down, wrap it around like this, and I really fiddle with that edge right there, make it look nice. Food experiments! I'm hungry. Now, if you're going to stitch all the way around the cuff, I like to start, like I would press this too, of course. I would press this, right? So we'll pretend like that's all pressed. If you're going to stitch all the way around your cuff, I like to start in the middle here maybe, or maybe like right here on the underarm on this seam, and put my back tacks there rather than over here, because I think when you start back tacking at the ends of the cuffs, it pushes your cuff away from the edge a little bit, you know, and it makes it a little inaccurate. This would be easier if I pressed it. So we'll start right here. This is the right side of the sleeve, even though it doesn't really look like it because I had to sew it backwards. And then I just fold that a little past that seam line. It's kind of acting funny because it's not ironed. It's like pushing. I can feel it rolling under, right, this side rolling under a little bit. I get to this side here. I open up the cuff. I wrap it around. I'm going to get rid of these threads though, because those can like kind of seep out, you know, those things. Back tacks, I think it's just must be my machine. They're just so messy. Right. Now sometimes, are you getting torquing issues, Louise, where your cuff is getting like this side, this piece is bigger than the under, or vice versa? Because I do sometimes find that if I make this a little shallower, so I'm going to pull, like to show you in the video and exaggerate it, I'm going to pull this a little bit further this way toward the machine. Just a tiny bit. That way when my machine is coming along sewing and it's pushing on this top edge, when it gets to here it lines up. So in other words, I'm doing this, very exaggerated, I'm showing you right now, right? And then I sew along, push, you know, push, 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 I get to there and it's fine. Turn under that 3/8. Where's my awl? Oh, there it is. I'm getting a little panicky without that thing. I sometimes even push the fabric like this on the top. It's definitely creeping almost off the edge there. Ooh, I got my needles really close to the edge there. Probably a little too close. I didn't trim and press my corners, I mean my rounded corners, so they ain't gonna be pretty. I used to do 2 rows of stitching on these too, like a 1/4 inch apart. Alright, so here we are back at the other one. See, and I also think, I'm going to show you what I can see here. I also think when I put this cuff onto the sleeve, the first seam, right? I left this a little further away so you can see. This little back stitch right here kind of draws in the fabric and kind of makes it pucker, and that's kind of annoying. So sometimes you got to watch that, you know? I don't know if that helped, Louise. Yeah. Yeah, you know, yeah, I didn't actually mention that, but you're right. Like sometimes if you trim that corner there, I've had that exact same problem, whereas if I cut the corner off, and where she's talking about is inside here, right at the start stop area of the cuff to the sleeve, right? That's what you're talking about. I'll show you. There's a lot to think about when putting on the cuff, because the other thing I didn't even talk about is making sure that your cuff is the same width on either end. And I can probably guarantee that that's the reason why this cuff is a curve, so you don't have to worry about that. Night, Malin. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you in August, hopefully. Okay, so right here, I did not trim this little piece right here. And it's because when you do this sometimes, this little nubbin will not go in there. I don't know what it is, but in some fabrics, like this is going to, this fabric is nice and like crisp, and it's not pre-washed, you know what I mean? Like it's gonna behave. But like that flannel would have been a nightmare if I'd cut the corner. So One thing you could do, Louise, if that little trimmed corner is giving you a lot of grief, you could remove the whole cuff and move it down. Like, give yourself a 1/4 of an inch away from that trimmed corner. As long as you're, and you can make your pleat a tiny bit bigger to account for it being you need a little bit smaller there, I don't know if that helps, but yeah. So I can, because this is a rounded cuff, it's a lot easier to get the width here to match up and be fine because you're not worried about the rounded edge as much. But, if you're overlapping a lot, it will be obvious if your cuffs are not the same width. The rounded edge just kind of smooths over some little sewing issues, so. Anyway, I don't know if that helped you, Louise, but I know you got this. Yeah, move the cuff up a smidge. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's why I don't trim the corner of the collar too. I will sometimes right before I get to it and I sew it, and I'll maybe trim the neck or the collar, but not both, just to get rid of that bulk. But I know what you mean, because when you trim that little corner, it makes this little piece right here really hard to get in here, because like you saw my first pass through here, look at how far away the stitching is. It's an 1/8. This is really sloppy and I know that, but you're not going to stitch this right here. You're going to stitch it right here so it looks normal, right? And if you do that, that sometimes is just too far away. It'll do that. This is why rules suck, because they are sometimes incorrect. That's right, Louise. You will not be beaten. That's right. You are the boss of this cuff. Right? So, well, sorry about my sleeve placket being the wrong side. But hey, I feel like you guys helped me solve a mystery that I've had for almost 7 solid months. So thanks. Sorry, it came at the cost of having the placket on the right side. This looks so country, like cowboy country. This fabric and everything. And being on the wrong side. All right, well, cool. So make sure you guys, yeah, no worries, Louise. I hope it helped at all. Even if it's just to cheer you on, because I know you got this, Yeah. You could just put elastic on the bottom and get rid of the cuffs. I'm just teasing. A little draw cord cuff instead. There's not a whole lot of alternatives to this, is there? Maybe just like a little loop with a button and a hem. We need cuff alternatives. We need backup plans. I like backup plans. All right, so next month is my 2-year anniversary for the stream. I'm gonna have some giveaways for you guys, and I have got some great stuff. I got some books and stuff. Ah, thanks, Terry. I'm gonna miss you guys too, but I really need to get a bunch of stuff done. I really, it's a good deadline for me. So thanks, Ray. Hit the like button, thanks, and subscribe. If you hit the little bell, it'll notify you when I'm live. I also let people know on, I forgot to do that on Instagram today. Shoot. I was trying my new routine out and then I forgot. Oh well. I've been trying to post something on Instagram that says, if you see this right now, I'm live on YouTube. Because I know once you're on Instagram, it's hard to leave, and I get it. I totally understand. I don't leave either, really. So, but I know sometimes people are like, "Shoot, I was looking at my phone and I forgot." So I'm trying to help you out. Yeah. So make sure if you guys want to do the jelly roll race with us, get your jelly roll. We'll probably do that mid to late August. I'm gonna be sewing underwear next month and men's underwear. I've never done this before. It should be entertaining. I will probably have to configure my home sewing machine for some of that. And then, I don't know. Those are the only 2 things I know for certain I'm doing. Maybe my napkin thing, but I might do that in September. So we'll see. All right. So I'll see you guys in our August. I don't even know what's that date. August 5th or 6th. It'll be August 5th or 6th. I'm also probably going to do some uploaded videos. I'm hoping. So we'll see. All right. I'll see you guys next month. Have a great one. Happy sewing. And yeah, thanks for coming.